Hello everyone. Just got done watching a video by George for Title. He's talking about YouTubers disappearing. Well, I haven't disappeared. I'm still trying to bring good informational videos to you. A little bit of humor, a little bit of politics, trying to mix it up a little bit of ancient history. Today I want to talk about $16 trillion of debt. As many of you know, we just crossed the $16 trillion threshold on Friday. And that's 102% of our GDP. And that's double from what it was in 1988, when it was 51%. I mean, we are piling it on hard and fast. 1/3 of the national debt has been added just in the last 4 years alone. I want you to listen to something, because I've been having people ask me about the conventions and stuff. I don't pay attention. Neither of those parties have our interest in heart. Unless they're willing to talk about the national debt, which is to me the biggest issue facing this country. And they just ignore it. I mean, the interest we paid last year was like $450 billion. Almost $500 billion. And interest rates are at historical lows. Interest rates go back to 6.5%. And a lot of that short-term debt gets rolled over. We're heading towards $1 trillion a year in interest payments. I mean, they're not talking about this. This is a huge problem. And Obama's talking about Bush adding $4.9 trillion to the national debt. There was $5.7 trillion added by the first 42 presidents. So Bush comes along and adds 4.9. He says that's unpatriotic. Well, in 4 years, he just added more than Bush added in 8. So all these people that are supporting Obama must not care about that. They don't care that he's just handing this huge, unimaginable sized debt onto my kids, my grandkids, your children, your grandchildren. I mean, this is a huge problem, and I want to get into it. I want to get in. Someone asked me today, well, who do we owe the money to? Where's the 16 trillion owed? I mean, I had someone over the weekend saying, it's just a made-up number. They just keep making up this huge number. No, I broke it down the best I could, and I'm going to bring it to you real quick. So listen to this real quick, and then we'll get into it, where it's going, and I want to let you in on a couple things I found, some interesting, total wasteful spending. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's a huge spending problem. That's what this is all about. It's not an income problem. You know, the spending's got to quit, and it's just not going to quit. So money's going to continue to be printed, just like the video I did on the ECB, coming out saying unlimited bond buying. And they're talking, that's supposed to be a sterilization. They're supposed to take money out of the money supply in order to buy these bonds. And Gregory Mannarino helped us all understand that there's still interest involved, and that's going to have to be printed. So there's going to be printing no matter what, and that's why owning physical gold and silver is one of the best things we can do. So let's listen to this real quick, and we'll get into where it's going, and then I'll let you all go.
The problem is that the way Bush has done it over the last 8 years is to take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt from $5 trillion for the first 42 presidents. Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
Okay, so unlike what you may hear from a lot of people, that China owns us and we owe all this money to China, and China's got us under their thumb. Well, out of the 16 trillion, we owe 1.16 trillion to China. So it's nothing like that, if that's what you've been hearing. But so it's 5.52 trillion owed to foreigners. And I wrote down the top four. We got China's number one, 1.16 trillion. Japan's number two, 1.11 trillion. Oil exporting countries, which is at least 5 or 6 countries, 261 billion. And we have, sorry about that, we have Brazil, 242 billion. And I also found this. I'm going to link up below. Any of you who are interested can check this out. It breaks it down, what country, how much money we owe to each country, and then you know, put the pointer on the little circle to tell you exactly how much is owed. And it takes it from '08 to present on any country. You know, here's China's the biggest. So anyhow, I'm going to link that below, and you can check that out if you're interested. One other thing, here's a chart I found here. I don't know if you're going to be able, yeah, I guess you can see that. It just shows from, here's, you know, that big huge debt that Bush gave us from 2000 on over to 2008, and then here's the last 4 years, which is more than this whole 8 years here. So many people, they don't seem to understand that. Maybe they don't want to stand it because they're so excited about hoping for their hope and stuff like that. So anyhow, so we got 5.52 trillion that goes to foreign investors. Intragovernmental holdings is about 5 trillion. So there's 1/3, and here's the other third. And this is Social Security, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund. $2.67 trillion is owed to Social Security. That's why I don't plan on getting any, because there's nothing there. They had all this extra money. They were like, it was supposed to be a lockbox, and somehow that got changed. They just used all the money. There's a bunch of IOUs in some fund now. It's supposed to be for Social Security. Medicare trust funds, $325 billion. So the money being taken out of my check and your check, if you're an American, is supposed to be set aside to pay for Medicare. You know, that's a huge future obligation. And they're just sucking that out dry too, so they got a bunch of IOUs in there. Disability insurance, same thing. More of those deductions coming out of our checks, $140 billion. So the rest of it, the other 5.5 trillion, is domestic investors. So we have about 800 billion in mutual funds, in bonds. Pension funds, 900 billion. State and government have invested in the federal government, 450 billion. 255 billion owed to insurance companies. 290 billion owed to domestic banks. A whopping 1.1 trillion in savings bonds and other investors. So, you know, just any average Joe who's got some bonds. You know, there's $1 trillion in the citizens' bonds that's owed back to the citizens, and the bonds are holding. And then the Federal Reserve, we owe $1.7 trillion to the money they create on the computer and just out of thin air. And so that's where it all goes. You know, I have to send this to that person that asked me where it all goes. I mean, I had an idea, but this is the best way that I could break it down. So, really sad. It was not a fun time looking at this. Just so sad. Nobody's willing to step up. There's no politician that's going to step up and say, I'm slashing everything in half. You know, no more money for this group or for this society over here and for this, and so no money. I found 3 things I wanted to point out real quick. I mean, just totally just stupid things that the money's being wasted on. The money is just totally being wasted. There's no accountability. In 2011, the National Institute of Health spent $592,000 on a study that sought to figure out once and for all why chimpanzees throw their crap. Is that necessary? I mean, $500,000 to try and figure that out? The IRS spent $862,000 to store unused furniture and equipment. I mean, can't anybody make a decision? I mean, I know these people are just saying, well, you know, the government will pay for it. I have people talk to me about the government. Like, they got all this money. They don't have any money. The government doesn't have any money. They act like the government's got so much money. NSF, the National Science Foundation, spent $500,000 to study whether people trust tweets on Twitter. I mean, come on, man. It's just totally ridiculous things that money's being spent on, and the list goes on. There's like 100 of these unimaginable, stupid ways that money's being spent by the government. This is it. Anyone wants to talk to you about the Democratic Party's doing this, or the Republican Party, they got this idea. This is what it's about. This is the main problem. This is going to take this country down to its knees when interest rates start to rise. And if, you know, if your party and your politicians aren't talking about this, then they're just blowing hot air.